This is a quick demonstration of the emissions calculator in FarmLab. So really simple tool designed to help producers and consultants calculate emissions data for a certain period of time for their farm. So starting screen, I've got this pre-filled out, but the farm name here, and this will be inherited from the farm name in FarmLab, which we can have a look at in another video, where the farm is located and whether or not it's in the orange zone there, making emissions slightly higher or lower depending on where that's located. So we might change that to no in this case. You can now specify on the front screen whether you have livestock. If you don't, we'll hide all those options. So really try to make it as simple as possible to do data entry. Go to the next step. Where does our data begin? We've put 2016 to 2018, and then we can select the months and the years we've got data from. We know that we don't have data necessarily for every single month of the year, so we might untick a few of these as well, and it just means less fields to enter. Of course, that will change the results. Now, a few points to make. If we enter February and December, we'll assume that through March to November, we have the amount of cattle that we entered in February. So just be aware when unticking things. The next step then will take us to some of those data entry screens. So we've entered bulls. We've got bulls here. We enter the livestock quantity, livestock weight. We can go through our different cattle types, so heifers, different ages, steers, trade heifers, cows, so on and so forth. We've got some data already populated there. This is January. If you remember, I unticked most of the months except for January, February, June, and December. So we've got those months showing along here. So really trying to streamline how much you need to enter to make it as simple as possible. We'll go through to the next step. This is where we've said we have sheep. So if you don't have sheep, you won't get presented with this. We enter the stock inventory, stock weight, and livestock weight for that month. And we can go through each of the years and enter the month's worth of data there. So it looks like a lot of data entry, but just remember if you don't have all the months for all the years, you won't be entering data for all the months and all the years. Go through to the next step. And this is where we have annual livestock purchasing and enter any purchasing or trade data associated with your cattle. Same, because we've entered trade steers, trade heifers, cows, pretty much every cattle type there is, as well as sheep. We'll get presented with all of it, but not necessary if you don't have those. Second last step here is fertilizer input. So we can input our annual fertilizer use for 2016, 2017, and 2018. This is important because there are emissions associated with fertilizer. Into annual limestone and phosphate fertilizer use, and then any made-up fertilizers here or any new fertilizers that aren't included. The important thing to remember is the nitrogen percentage of that fertilizer there, tons applied to irrigated and tons applied to dryland, because they'll all have their own specific emissions attached to them. We go to the next step here, and electricity energy sources. So we're just saying in this case we've had 2,000 kilowatts used. The cattle enterprise, this can be hard to calculate, especially things like diesel and feed and pesticides. Do the best you can. If you've got records on this, then fantastic. Next step, take us through to the calculation screen, give us a bit of a summary, go through, have a look at each of these one by one. And if we need to go back and change it, we can. If we need to save and continue at any time, we can. We hit submit and process calculations. We'll have a little processing button here, and we can go in and have a look at the calculations that have been processed. Here we are here. So here are our Scope 1 emissions for 2016, 2017, 2018, and our total emissions here. So just a few points. Our total for beef was 47,000 tonnes of CO2 emitted over the 3 years. For sheep, 100,000 tonnes, and together that's 148,000 tonnes. Scope 2 emissions, so these are emissions that went into supporting the operation. Scope 3 are emissions from further down the supply chain there as well. So that's about it. That's the emission summary. Please let us know if you've got any questions or feedback. Cheers.